Welcome to your first day of class, everyone. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we're here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we've designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let's introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Del Hierro. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as the department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Del Hierro earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and for student motivation. Next, we have Tasha Kiritan. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as senior manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member of the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. She's a Trident alum graduating from the Master of Arts in Education program and is currently a Doctor of Education student. Joining us during the Q&A session will be Christina Saenz, a Student Success Advisor 3 in our Center for Student Success. She has held a number of roles during her 8 years at Trident, including Supervisors of Graduate Advisors. Her dedication to meeting student needs is demonstrated through compassionate, active listening, seeking to understand and striving to act in the best interests of her students. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Find the questions box, type in your question, hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions and we'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment. And so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun And this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you. It's not to be upset with you. It's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed. And that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. You've probably built, hopefully you built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number, note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning, so I'd always ask your teacher. But the key is, I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper, maybe by the weekend, so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing that comes out in your writing. And so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment? Is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers at trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers at trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the new session. Hey, Dr. Del Hierro, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Doing great.
And there you are, Christina.
Yeah. Hi there.
One of my windows was covering up your face, and I was about to say, "Where's Christina?" But she's already here. Great. So, as a reminder, anyone who has any questions, you can ask them by going to your control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Go about halfway down, type in the question, hit submit, and then we'll address your questions that way. But let's start off with our first question. This one, let me see which question I want to ask first. Let's see. Christina, this question's for you. Let's see. Under our modules where it says reflection, is that question for us to answer for ourselves, or do we post it in a discussion? And if so, how do we do that?
So the reflective discussion is worth points. Usually it's 20 points. There can also, in a lot of classes, have a reflective essay, and the essay typically isn't worth points. So that's where usually students have a little confusion as far as I'm aware. What about you, Dr. Del Hierro? I'm sure that you have some insight on this too, as far as the reflective discussion piece.
Yeah, that's an important piece. So that it is, if you're in the undergraduate program or at the master's level, I believe all of those reflective discussions are worth 20 points. I can tell you that especially at the undergraduate level, all of them are worth 20 points. And surprisingly, a lot of students do not complete those. That could make or break your grade from either a passing or from a C to a B or a B plus to an A minus. So don't waste that opportunity. I would also, since we're talking about discussions, a lot of students think of those as being not as important, but really the discussions are worth 20% of your grade. Each of those discussions are worth 20 points. And a lot of students either post all on the first day or all on the last day and think, or they only post once and they think, hey, they've checked the box and they'll be fine. But they end up missing some really important points. And again, that could make or break your grade. I've seen it before. So don't squander those opportunities to rack up as many points as possible, especially at the undergraduate level. And I think at every level, it's expected that you post at least 3 times. And I would recommend that you post at least once a week, not 3 times a week, but each module is 2 weeks long. So hop in there and post once in the first week and then twice in the second week and reply. Make those responses substantive as much as you can. So provide some evidence, provide some thoughts, maybe ask a deeper question, but show that you've read the post, that you've thought about it, add something new to those discussions, and rack up as many points as you can so that you can earn the highest grade.
Oh, one other thing to add too, and also check the rubrics too. Read the rubric before you do the assignment to make sure you understand where the points are earned and where, so you make sure you're touching all the points.
Great. Thank you for the thorough explanation on that. I know that those create some confusion for students each session. Next question, we'll start with you again on this one, Christina. And actually, the question starts out with a thank you. It's thanks to the Trident team for the orientation course. And then the question, actually, I'm going to shift to Dr. Del Hierro on this one. My question is about deployments in the middle of a class and how that is handled as an admin drop and potential financial penalties, if any.
I know Christina will have a lot more to say on this.
I should have stuck with the first option on that one.
Because admin drop is usually during the first 2 weeks of the session. It's where students, we require students to participate so that we can make sure that you're on board and you are logging in and understanding the requirements. So I would just say if there are anything coming up immediate, or that you're trying to figure out deployment schedules, just reach out to the success advisor, admissions advisor, depending on where you are, who your point of contact that you've been talking with. Reach out to that person that you've mostly been connecting with and just let them know if something's happening, and ask them for their advice. I mean, a lot of times we try to figure out plans to help students to still be successful. So that if there is a way to make it work, we always want to help you to do that first. And secondly, if it's maybe timing isn't great, then we can always try to figure out a way to drop the class, because right now for April, we're in the add drop period until next Monday. So we got a little bit of time to figure out, if right now is the time to absolutely start, but if you can, then definitely reach out to those in your portal, and also the admissions advisor that can help with giving some feedback on how to navigate it.
I'll just hop in here. So this happens all the time, happens very frequently. This is not uncommon. And I will say that we have policies and procedures in place. So before dropping, I would work with your advisor and also your faculty member to be flexible with your assignment submissions. If you complete module 1 and 2 in the class, then you can apply for a regular extension. But if you don't, a situation like a deployment is something that we are very sensitive about, and that we don't want you to be hurt or negatively impacted at any level, academically or financially. So we understand that TA, tuition assistance, has guidelines that we can't that we have to follow. But we can offer extensions on top of the class if you're deployed, to give you that extra time. And more times often than not, that does the trick before we drop anybody. So even if you're in the class at all, or if you're considering enrolling and you know that a deployment's coming up, I would encourage you to get in the class, keep the progress, keep your momentum going, because we have very generous policies and procedures to help you complete the classes that you're enrolled in without any negative impact to you at all. So please, I would just encourage you to continue your progress, talk through all the extensions that you want or that you need. Maybe it's module by module, maybe it's an extra 30 or whatever, how many days that you need to complete the class, but push through your courses is my first recommendation. And then always reach out to us, communicate to us, so that we can work you through those policies and procedures.
Great, thank you. And then for those of you who may not have seen this, I did put a note in the chat box. If you're not aware who your advisor is, you don't remember, you don't recall talking, just drop a note in the question box. We'll connect you after the webinar. And then next question, I'm going to start with Christina on this, and it says, how can I expect the structure of classes to change from session to session over the course of my master's program?
As far as I'm aware, the master's programs are basically 8-week sessions, 4 modules. So assignments are essentially due every 2 weeks for the case and SLPs, and then the discussions are due a little bit more frequently, like George was discussing, or sorry, Dr. Del Hierro. So I think overall, in terms of the structure is very much the same, and being able to go log in early on early access week, you can always go in and see what you're, see all the modules and be able to plan ahead. So I think the structure is always the same. So I think that's what gives you consistency so that you can know what to expect. So I would say overall it's pretty consistent through the program, I want to say, because I was an advisor for the master's programs for many years, and it's pretty much just paying attention to the academic calendar, paying attention to the due dates, the Sundays are due. So just paying attention to the deadlines, I think, is really important, and programming them in your phone or some way to remember the deadlines is always important, since we lead such busy lives here. So that's what to expect, I would say.
Yeah, I asked for clarification on the question, and
Okay.
hits the nail on the head. They're looking for, if the structure is going to change each
Right.
class.
No, so
And
I would
then,
say no. Just the subject matter does, obviously.
yeah, and then perfect segue, since you sort of already mentioned already, but the next question is, are the times for submitting work always going to be on Pacific time?
Yes. Yeah, it's mainly because that's where we're centrally located, so that we do everything runs off of Pacific Standard Time. So deadlines are by 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the due date. So always Google it if you're not sure. If you're in a different time zone and you're not sure, then always just Google, what your time difference is so you can be aware of that. I would say, especially if you're overseas, that can get a little confusing sometimes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then last question. Last question. Go with Dr. Del Hierro on this one, and and then we can go to Christine as well. What do you, as someone who's taken multiple classes? Actually, we have just one more question came in, so second to last. As someone who's taken multiple classes, what's some advice you have on trying to manage my time so I don't fall behind?
Oh wait, was this for me, right?
Yeah, sorry. It's starting with Dr. Del
Okay.
Hierro and then to you, Christina. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would recommend if let's say you're taking 2 classes, I would recommend setting a goal for yourself to submit maybe the case assignment first by the end of the first week, and your SLPs for both classes by the second week. Breaking it up like that, setting goals for each class each week is a great way of starting. For your discussions, I would hop in and do that maybe the first day. Hop in and post your original post for both of them, take a break, and then maybe on Wednesday, reply to some students. So you're skipping a day and then you're kind of managing it like that. And then maybe again on that second week, hop in on the discussion. So you do have flexibility with the assignments of what to do first and what to do second. So I would definitely build quick momentum by doing the discussions day one, because it is just a quicker reply. I mean it's just a quick way to just build some momentum, and then set your sights on either the case assignments or the SLPs for each class 1 week, and then the second week, do the other assignments for both. But you don't want to, I would probably steer you away from like just focusing on one class 1 week and another class another week. You want to try and maintain consistent progress or participation throughout each class so that you're maintaining momentum again. So that word is going to be huge. Many of you might get derailed one way or another with personal or professional issues that come up. So momentum is going to be key when you lose it, so you got to build it back up somehow. But you do have flexibility with the classes. So find what works for you. If focusing on the SLPs works best for you first, I kind of did that when I was a student. The SLPs were shorter assignments for me. So again, I wanted to build momentum, and then I just focused on the case assignments the second week, and I tried to submit those in that second week. So that would be my advice to you, is break it up week by week and maintain consistent participation in each class.
Yeah, so then I would say to add because those are a lot of good points I was already probably going to say, but I would just add to it is just the time management and the accountability piece. So basically, it's very, like he's saying, like to have a plan and then actually making sure that you hold yourself to it is really important. So especially if you fall behind a week or two, then it can be kind of overwhelming to catch up. And then sometimes that's where our students tend to not, they contact us or they're not sure what's the best strategy. And so I think, always a success advisor is going to have probably have a good understanding of what your course is about. And so we're always here to help to, give you insight into maybe something that may work for you, but we understand everybody has different learning styles and different schedules and so many different things. So I would just say, like, trying to make a plan, doing your best to hold yourself accountable, because at the end of the day, your professor's not going to be emailing. I mean, they may be emailing you saying where are your assignments, but I mean, you ultimately have to hold yourself accountable. It's you that's earning the grade. So I think as much as possible, there are always going to be life events that happen, and we understand that, but as best as you can, holding yourself to that schedule, even being a little bit ahead of schedule, I find that students who are even a little bit ahead, they feel much more confident because they don't feel like they're behind, and so they feel much more in control, or of the situation. And I think it really helps to just like that whole confidence and being able to tackle the classes. And then also too, so you can get feedback from your professors, understand what the feedback's about, be able to integrate that into the next module. So it's all part of our learning model to really make sure that you're getting, integrating that feedback so that you can really make your assignments the best that they can be. So yeah, those are my main tips about just being successful in general, but we're always here to offer suggestions as best as we can, since we're invested in you all.
Yeah, there are some great points here that I want to highlight from Christina. One of them being you can submit assignments early, so you don't have to wait till the deadline to submit. You have that flexibility, so go ahead and submit those assignments early. The drop boxes are even open after the deadline, so even if you're falling behind and you didn't reach out to your instructor about something that popped up, you can still submit late assignments. You might be deducted, you might receive some points being deducted, but at least you'll get some points, and that's what you want. Without any, if you're not submitting assignments, you're getting 0 points. So we operate on a points-based system. So submit your assignments and then reach out if you're falling behind. Christina also mentioned this term called, or this idea called, time management, and we all struggle with it. It's a challenge for everybody. But when I think of time management, I love this subject. I think of goal planning. So your ultimate goal is to graduate. So from there, you work backwards. So what sessions you need to be enrolled in, and what classes you need to be enrolled in to get to graduation. And then that brings you to the current session. Whatever classes you're enrolled into, what do you need to do to pass that class? And then you continue to work backwards. What do you have to do each module to pass this class? And then you continue to work backwards. What do you have to do each week? How does your week look for you to complete the assignments to pass the module so that you can pass the class, move forward in your program, and graduate? So look at what you have to do each day. If it's daily that you have to spend 2 or 3 hours on homework, then make sure you find a consistent time in your schedule to work on it. If it's every other day, then that's understandable. Then make every other day 2 hours after you put the kids to sleep, or 2 hours in the morning. You have to wake up early, before the kids wake up, or whatever, before you have to go to work, or on your lunch break. Whenever it is, make sure you have that consistent time so that you can work on the assignments to pass each module. And that's how you manage your time. Time management and goal setting go hand in hand. That's what I would encourage you to do. But Christina, talked a lot about that. So
yeah,
great response, Christina.
Thanks.
Thank you for all that amazing advice. And last question, Christina, at the bachelor's level, are classes typically chosen for students in the Fastrac program?
I want to say that there's always going to be, every program has a sequence that's recommended by the dean or program director. So there'll always be a recommended sequence depending on how the courses build on each other. Sometimes there will be some classes that don't necessarily have a sequential, or like the materials build as much on each other. So usually I think it's best to, like, once a degree plan is created, like, we articulate all of the transfer credits. If you have transfer credits coming in, then that's usually when you want to get on the phone with your success advisor, go over the path to graduation, which is our way of scheduling classes. It's basically like a scheduler in a way, where we can help to, like, plug in, do you want to take 2 classes a session, 1, and that goes into, like, looking at your calendar, being able to look at months ahead and figure out, well, what do I have to do in, the coming months? So it is wise to do that, just so that you can have the more that you communicate with your success advisor, the more that we understand what you need, then we can ultimately then create a schedule that works for you. And, especially once we know your desired graduation date, then we can, like George said, kind of work backwards and be able to figure out, how to get there to that graduation date by knowing what we need to do today. So I think overall, they will be, typically though, the students aren't, I guess I get the best way to say it too is like, typically you guys aren't putting all your classes in order. So we are putting a recommended schedule, but usually we'll ask, like, do you want to take math this session? Like, do you want to, so we will try to find which ones are your favorite subjects, which ones you're not as, least. Some students don't, everybody has something they don't necessarily love, but that's okay. So I think it's just a matter of trying to find a balance, and that's really the key. So, but we do want to help to make it something that works for you and your schedule. So we're not trying to make it to where you have to take these classes, but let's figure out a way. And it's always a compromise of that, of that communication to figure out what works for you. So, yeah. And that also applies to the masters too, but masters typically build a lot more directly. So there's less flexibility, I would say, in that one of being able, they really do build on each other. So.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. And that really illustrates why you want to form a really close bond with your student success advisor, so you can navigate those challenges together. But thank you both of you. Thanks both of you for your time today. We're going to end things with a pre-recorded student success story from one of our doctoral grads. And again, if you have any questions, you still can submit on the question box or find my email, and we'll address everything for you. Have a great session.
All right.
All right, thank
you, everybody.
We'll see you in class.
All right. Have a good session, guys and gals.
Hello, I am Anthony Stoneberg, and I am a two-time Trident alum. My greatest accomplishment in my personal life was easy, the birth of my children, and I wouldn't have that without the love and support of my beautiful wife. Professionally, it was the ability to retire from the Army after 30 years of service as a nominative 2-star Command Sergeant Major position and be able to take care of soldiers and their families. The biggest obstacles for me to achieve my education was really, in both my personal and professional life, was just the ability to believe in myself when others didn't. What it really means to me is more though than that. It's really something for my family. My father quit school in 8th grade and got a GED. My mom was the first in her family to graduate from high school. And now for me, for her to have a son that has a doctorate, another daughter to be a lawyer, another son to have 2 master's degrees, it shows my children the drive and ambition that was put in me, instilled in me by my parents, and I want them to have the same thing. You're never too old to learn, you're never too old to succeed, and you're never too old to go back to school. I wish everybody the best of luck and good luck at Trident.
Trident alumni, forged by the tip of the spear.